A wonderful evening to everyone who joined with us today. Welcome to the first workshop of RevolUX 3.0, jointly organized by the IEEE Student Branch of University of Colombo School of Computing and IESEC in University of Colombo. I hope you're all settled in and ready for this exciting session on Figma Fundamentals, as it will be an immense support, especially for the contestants of the upcoming RevolUX 3.0 designathon. I'm Dinu Jayatista, and I will be your moderator for today's session. So, to begin, let's extend a warm welcome to our distinguished keynote speaker, Ms. Sanduni Kariyawasam. Currently, she holds the position of Senior UX Designer at the very renowned IFS. She is here to guide us through the fundamentals of the Figma tool, providing essential insights for those exploring and experimenting in this dynamic field. Ms. Sanduni, your presence here is truly appreciated. We eagerly anticipate the valuable knowledge you are about to share. Over to you.
Thank you for that warm welcome, Dinu. So let me share my screen and get started. Yeah, great. I hope everybody can see the sharing.
Yep, we can see.
Yeah, that's great. So welcome everyone to today's session on Figma Fundamentals, where I'll be actually talking not only about Figma, but something called FigJam as well. You might have heard about it, maybe not, but let's see. As Dinu mentioned, I'm Sanduni and I currently work as a senior UX designer at IFS. And I'm actually very happy to be here today because I have been a member of both IESEC in University of Colombo and IEEE Student Branch UCSC. So it's a real pleasure to be here today to help you guys out with RevolUX workshops. So today I want you to be a little hands-on with me and try to engage with me throughout. So for that, we'll be using something called Mentimeter. I will walk through what you have to do. So let me see. Okay, so what you can do is go to www.menti.com and there you can either use this code you can see here to join with me, or else you can take your mobile phone and just open up your camera or Google Lens or whatever and just scan this QR code, and then you will be able to enter this slide set. So this is what I will be using to sort of engage with you, and this is where you can send me questions. If you have a question, you can always send it in the chat as well, but it's easier for me to see if you can send the question over here. Or even the reason that I'm asking you to engage like this is because I know most people are shy. So if I ask you to speak up and ask me questions, you probably wouldn't do that. But if somebody is confident enough to do that, feel free to do that as well. You can send me questions throughout the session today. I have opened up that for you. But if not, we will see. I will see whether if it's possible to take questions during the session, but if not, we can always take them at the end. So yeah, it's great to see. I see about 16 people have joined the Q&A, but I see 115 people in the call, the meeting itself. So come on, let's see. Let's give a couple of minutes to everybody so a respectable amount of people can join. Okay, 4 to 6 people, not bad, but you can do better. Come on. So I'm going to move away from this slide and I will drop a link in the meeting chat instead. So what you can do is if you had trouble joining via that, via the QR code, you can always click on the link and join instead. So just to get started, I want to know about you guys. Have you heard of Figma before? Okay. a lot of people seems to have heard of it and used it as well. That's really great. But a few who hasn't heard or even like hasn't used it before. It seems like a lot of people have used it. That's really great. Or were you having like trouble with the QR code? Because now I see a lot more people signing up using the link. But yeah, I'm glad I did that. So a lot of you have heard of Figma. That's really great. I think that might be part of the reason that you joined the RevolUX hackathon, a designathon as well, probably. But still, there are a few people who's completely new to this. So I hope I'll be able to deliver something today that will be important to all of you guys. So those people who are like really familiar with Figma, if I go to the very basics of Figma, please bear with me today. It's for the benefit of people who hasn't used it before. So, but hopefully you'll get something out of today's session as well. Great. So about half of our participants have used Figma. That's really great. But I'm more curious to know, have you heard about FigJam, not Figma? Okay, well, it's like the results are going on in the other side now. About half of the participants haven't like maybe heard of it, but don't know what's its use or haven't heard of it ever. But there seems to be quite a few who has used it as well. So that's great. Today I'm going to talk about both of them. Okay. So now I'm going to move away from this and actually get started with what I have prepared for you today. But let me quickly walk you through what I'll be covering today. So as I mentioned, it's some very basic stuff about Figma and FigJam both. I'll be specifically talking about something called design thinking and how Figma and FigJam can be used as a tool for this. And then how we can use Figma tools and how we can navigate around with it, how we can do some quick UI design and prototyping use Figma, and then how do we give over the deliverables that we have prepared using Figma by exporting screens or even sharing with somebody else. And I will direct you to some places where you can learn more about Figma and FigJam in general as well, because we won't be able to cover more than a few like surface level stuff today. But as I mentioned, the Mentimeter is open for you always. So even while I'm doing the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Let's see how we can take them as time goes by. So first, we are going to be talking about Figma and FigJam. So Figma is considered to be a collaborative interface designing tool and a prototyping tool. So as UX designers, this is where we design all our screens. And if we want to sort of see how the interactions of the different screens that we have prepared works, this is the tool we can use to prototype those screens as well. Whereas FigJam is something called a whiteboarding tool or collaborative whiteboarding tool, I'd say. One thing that UX designers does, and maybe you have seen it as well, you take like this huge whiteboard or even plain like piece of like a wall or something, and you could like to scribble things down on sticky notes and put them up on the wall. So FigJam was based on the same concept, but instead of being it in a physical environment, what they have done is taken this into the virtual environment. So Now, how does these tools tie into something called design thinking? Design thinking is actually a process that is used by UX designers and UX, UI designers, UI engineers, and all. And it's a 5-step process. Maybe you guys have heard about this, maybe not, but it's something very important when it comes to UX design in general. It's a 5-step process, as I mentioned, which starts with a stage called empathize, uh, and then define, ideate, prototype, and test. So if we talk about this empathize stage, this is where we start to identify what the problems that our users have. Imagine you are thinking about uh, building up, let's say, a chatbot or something. But first of all, you might have an idea what the screens are going to look like, what are the features that you are going to put into this. But it doesn't matter if you have this great idea in your head. If you don't know about the people that is going to be using this product that you are building. So you have this chatbot idea, and the first step to do is go to your users, a person who will potentially be using this product idea that you are going to put out there. And in the empathize stage, what we do is go up to them and talk to them. And a phrase that we really like to use all the time is putting ourselves into the shoes of our users and trying to see and feel what they are seeing and feeling. So in order to do that, there are a lot of other methods that we can do. I'm not going to dive deep into any of this, but you should really before jumping into designing anything using Figma or even like trying to brainstorm ideas using FigJam, it's always good to know your basics about UX design. So in that case, for the empathize stage, you have a lot of methods in your hand. Like you can go up to your users and talk to them, which are called user interviews, and even stakeholder interviews, where the uh, the person or the people who has come up with this idea of the product you are building, you can go up to them and talk to them. Those are stakeholder interviews. And then if you need to get more information or more data on what you are building, you can always give out surveys and do data analysis and things like that. And you can always go and check out if there are other competitor products like that. If we are talking about a chatbot, let's say an AI chatbot, you have ChatGPT right now, you have Google Bard, you have Microsoft Bing Chat. You can check them out and see how they are doing this. So that's competitors and competitor analysis. So things like this you can do in order to empathize with your users and the people who will be potentially using the product that you are building. And then once you have empathized with the users, the next step is to define. You have to define what problem that you are trying to solve. So in this case, you have already sort of thought about the solution. It's an AI chatbot. But in there, what are the users looking for? What if they go to an AI chatbot? What are the problems that they are trying to solve when they go to this? So in here, you can map out user journeys, empathy maps. You can define the problem statements. There's something called user stories that you can do. So all these methods and tools come under the define stage. And then it's only after you have sort of a clear-cut problem statement. It doesn't have to be really final, but you have to have some sort of solid idea as to what problem you are going to solve. Once you have that problem statement in your hand, then you can move to the ideate phase, where you can have brainstorm sessions with other people who's in your team who will be helping you build this. And then you can create storyboards, you can user flows, think about the information architecture, how all the information in the product you are building is going to end up hierarchically and things like that. So these all fall under the ideate phase. And then it comes the prototyping phase, because it's always a good idea for you to design whatever you are thinking, the product you are ultimately going to have, and try to hand it over to the user. So for you to do that, you have to have a prototype in place. So here you can think about wireframing, some high fidelity design, have a few mock-ups, and try to make some interactive prototypes. So all this, I know the whole section is called prototyping, and in there you have the interactive prototyping as well. But all the creation of wireframes and high fidelity design, it all comes under prototyping as well. So now you have your prototype in place, and what you can do is hand over this to your users again, go back to your users and hand it over to them to sort of try to test how your product works like. So this is not a linear process. Design thinking is not a linear process. Once you start with empathizing, you can go like linearly, but there are some times where you have to always come back to other stages. For example, you have built your prototype, and while you are testing, you figure out that there is the problem that you are trying to solve is not the right problem. So in that case, you have to go back to the define phase and try to define the problem statement again. Or even when you are testing, it feels like the problem you're trying to solve is right, but the designs that you have done doesn't really work well. So in that case, you will have to redesign again. So what you can do is go back to the prototyping stage and try to refine all the designs that you have done. So here is how you can use FigJam and Figma as tools to help you with this design thinking process. As I mentioned, FigJam is a whiteboarding tool. So that means for all the idea generations and things that are really not to do with the design itself, and here I mean the UIs and prototypes itself, you can do all that using FigJam. But then when you have to start building up your UIs, your mockups, your prototypes, then you need to go to Figma itself. So this is how these two tools differ. Figma is, of course, the popular tool because the company Figma started out as with the Figma tool itself for designing purposes only. And then later, about like 2 years back or so, they introduced FigJam. And it has been a powerful tool so far as well for UX designers. It's really helpful. So let's talk about FigJam for design thinking. And in here, before doing that, let me open up my browser again. Yes. Yeah, so first of all, you need to have a Figma account to access both Figma and FigJam. One account and you get access to both of the tools. Because actually it is one tool and then like both of the options are in there itself. So you can type figma.com in your browser and then go to get started for free, this big button in here. You can also like check out what are the possible things in there. They have a really comprehensive landing page which tells us about all the possibilities with both Figma and FigJam. So you can go to get started for free and they will give you a registry page. I'd recommend going for it, continue with Google because it's really easy. If you have already signed up, if you already have your browser logged in with your Google account, it's just a matter of like 2 clicks and signing up for Figma. So do that. Or alternatively, you can, of course, like manually type in your email address. You might be using some other email service. So you can type in your email address and password and create the account. So I'll quickly talk a little bit about the pricing situation as well. What I'm using for my personal use is the free version. But you also have these other, like if you want to go to the paid version, you can of course go to the Figma professional one as well, but it's a little bit on the expensive side. About $12 per month. So if you're a student, there is a free version for students as well. It's called Figma for Education. There is a verification process happening in that, and I think I'm not entirely sure because I haven't done that, but all you need is probably maybe your university email or something like that. You can try that out. So I suggest going for the free version. There are limited options in that, of course. You only get access to like 3 Figma files and 3 FigJam files per project. So that's a limitation. And then once you create a file, you only get like 3 pages per file as well. So it's a bit of a hassle if you are used to using like a higher version of Figma, but to get started and for hackathons and things like designathons and things like that, it's completely okay to go with the free version. So enough about that. Let's jump into FigJam. Let's see, yes. So once you have signed up with Figma, and then you have created the account, this is sort of what your interface will look like. On the right side panel here, you can create a team, and then inside that you can create a project. So what you are seeing is the RevolUX 3.0 project that I have created inside the RevolUX 3.0 team. So in here, if you look at the top right corner, you can see creating design files and FigJam boards. So creating a design file means creating a Figma file itself for design purposes, and then the FigJam board is for FigJam boards itself. As you can see, the start team overview, with the free version, you only get 3 Figma files and 3 FigJam files. So let's get started with FigJam. Let me create the FigJam board. And once you click the button, it will open up the board itself. And you can maybe give it a name. Let's see, RevolUX 3.0 Workshop 1. And then you can see recently, actually, they announced it mid last year, mid 2023. Figma came up with integrating AI into Figma and FigJam. Actually, FigJam only. So it's still in beta, and AI has come a long way from what it used to be, but still, if you are going to use AI, use it a little bit with caution because it's not completely accurate yet. So what I recommend is get it to help with your daily work, but always like double check what the content that has been generated with FigJam with AI is, because sometimes AI hallucinates and you get very weird stuff made there. So always double check that what the content that have been generated is correct. So you can right now, the first thing that you can see is this generate option with AI, or alternatively, there are lots of templates available with Figma as well, FigJam as well. I will quickly show this to you. So remember all those words, those fancy words I mentioned with when talking about the design thinking process. So in here, you can see a FigJam template for almost any one of those things I have mentioned. There's for daily things, weekly calls, stand-ups, for diagramming and then mind mapping, even UML diagrams, things like that. So this is not only for really designers, because UML is not something we do. So even for engineers themselves, this could be a great tool for use. Any stakeholder, basically anybody can use FigJam for whatever purpose they want. So there are brainstorming templates and use persona templates. And for, as I mentioned, developers, there are technical diagram templates. For researchers, there are journey maps, empathy maps, things like that. So it's basically a matter of just clicking on one of these and adding it to the FigJam board you have already created and just start working from there. You can try this out for yourself, but what I'm going to show is like how cool AI can be, but as I mentioned, always use it with caution. So with the AI tool, what we can do is they have asked for a prompt here. So let's see, what are we going to do? Maybe we can do something like a brainstorm. So let's type a brainstorm session. So I previously mentioned the chatbot, so let's go with that. A brainstorm session for the new AI chatbot project. So, and then you can put any content that you like. You can mention, add, can we add? We can add an icebreaker to. So imagine the situation is that you are going to ask your team to come into this session, brainstorm session, and you might not know everybody else. So you need to sort of break the ice and get to know each other as well. So we start with an icebreaker, and then we can include maybe a competitor analysis in there. Oh no, maybe like research, user research. And then we are going to think about what the next steps of our project are going to be. So we can type in as detailed as you want. And then all you have to do is click on the generate button. And you can see it's perusing all the possibilities. And so we have to let it do its magic. So let's give it a couple of minutes. Yes, and it's done. So I started out with a blank canvas, and now I have a lot going on here. So what AI has done for me is help me to set up this template for brainstorming. And it has taken my prompt and set up a nice little section for the icebreaker. So in here, what you can do is like everybody gets together and draw something that they like, and then they can maybe talk about it and helps to break the ice. And then in here, we have a section about user research, or what are the user needs going to be like? What are the preferred features going to be like? And they have sort of put in starter boilerplate information as well, just as a starting point. But of course, this could be changed. And then we have, even though I haven't like mentioned anything, they have just because I said that it's a brainstorm session, they know that, like the AI knows that the purpose of a brainstorm session is to rapidly do some ideation. So they have done that. And then I mentioned that I need a next step tracker, and they have included that. So this is how you can use FigJam AI to generate quickly any template you want. So I just remembered that I actually forgot to go through the sort of the toolbar here. So let me quickly go through that as well. So in here is you have the select tool, and then you have the hand tool, which can be used to, you can't select anything using the hand tool, but you can just drag the canvas and drag your mouse point across just to see different parts of the canvas itself. And then if you need to do some freestyle drawing or like highlighting, putting some washi tape, erasing stuff, all that you can, in here you can see the marker tool and all that related to the marker tool is here. And then you can put in some basic shapes, and you can even create mind maps here. And these shapes can be used for you if you are doing some diagram using feature. And then to put in some ideas, you can use sticky notes, where you click on this and just put it anywhere on the template, and it will start. Then it will put a sticky note onto your template.
So yes, I was giving you a walkthrough of the toolbar here. You have sticky notes, and then you have some fun stuff here. Just things that are good for icebreaker sessions, some stickers, and you can access your templates in from here as well. Some widgets and plugins that might help you when you are working. So things like that. FigJam is a very fun place to be. So I really recommend for you guys to just start using it and try to explore all the possibilities that's there. And you can maybe get together with some friends and try it out as well. and have some fun doing it. So yes, we'll move away from our FigJam in that case. So that's how you can use AI and also use other templates that there are in FigJam itself for design thinking. So then how can we use Figma for design thinking? So I will give you a quick walkthrough of the interface itself of Figma as well. So right now my presentation is also made in Figma. So a little bit, if you're a designer yourself, maybe the interface might look a little familiar. This is sort of what you have in all the design tools like Illustrator, Photoshop, and things like that. You have the top toolbar itself, and here you get some tools for this. This is the Figma logo, and underneath that you have all the usual things that you find in a menu usually, where you can do your settings and preferences, and even your how you access plugins is through this, your account settings and things like that. And then when talking about the tools itself, you have for navigation purposes, you have your move tool, and then if you need to scale an image or any component that you have on your Figma files, you can use the scale tool. And to draw some frame or section, I will be talking about frames a little bit later, so I'm just going to mention the name in here. You can use frame, and then if you need to group things together, sort of put in together the same frames that go together into a group, you can use sections. And then in here you have all your basic shapes. You have rectangles, lines, ellipses, and things like that. And even this can be used to place images and videos on your what you are designing. But right now, if you are using a free account, you will only be able to place images and not videos. Videos is a luxury that comes with the paid version of Figma. And then if you want to go beyond just basic tools and need to create a little bit of your own shapes and things, you can use pen tool, or even if you've got good dexterity, you can use pencil tool as well. And then another important tool is the text tool, which you can use to type in anything. So it's just a matter of clicking on this text tool. You can put it, just click anywhere, and then you can just type whatever you want. See, like this. And then this little icon here, it opens up all your resources. It could be components. I will be talking about components a bit later as well. And then plugins and widgets are things which help you to do some designs as well. So if you have got any plugins and widgets, those will appear in here. And then similar to FigJam, you get the fan tool here, which you can use to move around your file. And then something I especially like is this little icon here, add comment. And if you are sharing your design file with somebody else to take a look and give their feedback, then add comment button is something that becomes really handy. All you have to do is click on that, or even you can use C on your keyboard as a keyboard shortcut, and you can place it in anywhere you want to leave a comment and just type it in. This is a comment. And it will appear in here. And somebody else who's looking at that can come and reply to the comment, and you can have a conversation about your design then and there as well. It's really handy. Okay, so then to the right side of here, you have some important things going on as well. This is the share button. I will be talking about that later on as well. And then this is something called dev mode. Figma recently introduced a new feature where you can select certain frames or sections and mark them as ready for development. So your developers can come in and take a look at the files that are important to them only. So in that case, you can use this dev mode. I will not be showing that to you today because right now it is free, but after January 31st, actually dev mode is going to be available only for enterprise and organizational users. And then once you have started doing a prototype, this little play button, something that is similar to what you see in video players and music players and things like that, this is what you can use to present your prototypes. I will talk about that later as well. So that is the basics about the Figma toolbar. And then you can see here, you get the left panel. On the left, you get a panel. So this is where you can see all the different pages that you put in your design file. So right now, this whole page that I'm using, this is one page. And then I have another page set up. So this is sort of a way for you to organize all the work that you have done. You can categorize these pages in any way you want for ease of access and ease of finding information. But unfortunately, in the free version, only 3 pages are allowed. So you will have to do all your work as much as possible in just 3 pages. And then you can, if you're familiar with like Illustrator or Photoshop, you will be familiar with the concept of having layers. So even in Figma, you have layers, but in Figma, the layers are sort of called frames. So everything in here, everything you can see on this workspace in the middle, you can find on your left panel as frames as well. And then you have the right panel, and the right panel itself is the place that we actually work with the most, because it's where we can set up all the settings of whatever we are designing. For example, if we take what you can see here right now in the middle is one frame, and if I select that frame, you can see different alignment patterns, the width and height of the frame, the corner radius and things like that. And then other options like the color of this frame, if we are going to have a stroke, then that one, then even the option for exporting this, and in effects is something where we can add shadows and things like that to our frame. So all those things that we can actually do to our frame, all that settings can be found in the right panel. And then, of course, once you start prototyping, you will just have to go to this prototyping tab, and in here, all the settings for prototyping needs to be done on the right panel as well. And then we have keyboard shortcuts. So there are a lot of Figma keyboard shortcuts, and I really recommend you to use them as a UX designer because it really speeds up your work process and really makes you help become efficient. So, but there's a lot, so you don't have to remember each and every one. Just once you start using a few that is helpful to you, it will automatically become like muscle memory to you. So you don't even have to think about specifically using them. But how you can look into these keyboard shortcuts is if you here see at the bottom of the right panel, you can see a question mark button that says help and resources. So if you click on that, and it opens up a little menu, and you can see somewhere down, you can see something called keyboard shortcuts. If you click on that, it will open up this panel at the lower bottom. And they mention all the keyboard shortcuts that are relevant for Figma itself. You can go through these and try out a few and see which ones you feel comfortable with, which ones you will be most helpful to you. And you can just try them out and see. And then once you start using them, you will sort of unconsciously select your favorite ones and keep on using them, and it will become second nature. But in order to speed up your work process, I highly recommend going through this and picking up at least a few keyboard shortcuts. One I can show you right now is I have been navigating around this page a lot and probably making some of you guys dizzy as well. So how I do that is, now I have as you can see, I have the select tool activated, which can be used for selecting these things on the screen, space itself. But if I want to move around, I need to change this into a hand tool. So one way I can do that is just click on H and drag this, and I can move around the screen. But then if I want to go back to getting the select tool, I will have to press the V shortcut again to get the select tool. But instead of that, what I usually do is, while I have the select tool selected, I will press down on my space bar in the keyboard, and then it will momentarily change into the hand icon itself, hand cursor itself. And if I release the space bar, it moves back to the select tool again. So when I'm designing something, I use the select tool like normal. And then if I want to just move the screen a little bit and navigate around, I will press on the space bar. And whilst pressing on the space bar, I will just move the frame that I'm working on and then release it once I need the select tool again. So that is something that will become familiar to you, and something that comes in really handy as well. So yes, those are some very basic things about the interface itself, which is, that might have been some boring information probably for the guys who are really used to working with Figma, but hopefully everybody learned something out of that. So let's move on to frames. Frames are the basic building blocks of Figma. In Figma, usually whatever you find is a frame in and of itself. So imagine we are going to do some UI designs first and foremost. And for that, what you do is start out with a frame. So for that, you can use this sort of the frame icon in the the toolbar itself. And what you have to do is click on it, and your cursor will turn into this cross, like plus sign. But also your right panel will change, and they have some pre-built settings for different frame sizes. They have a bunch of frame sizes for phones, and especially like most of them are iPhones, and a couple of options for Android as well. And they have frames for tablets, desktops, and even if you want. So when it first started out, Figma was considered to be a UI tool. So you only had options for like phones and desktop web and things like that. But then since it was more lightweight than when compared to a design tool like Photoshop and Illustrator, and had a less of like the learning curve was less. So because of that, it became very popular with marketing people as well, who quickly used it to put together some social media posts and presentations and things like that. So Figma came up with these pre-built settings or pre-built template sizes for that as well. So what you can do is, once you have selected the frame tool, you can either click and drag on your screen workspace itself to create a desired frame that you want, or else what you can do is just click on the frame icon here and then select one of the pre-built templates in here. So when I say template here, there's not going to be any actual content in the middle, but it's going to set you up with these screen sizes and everything. So maybe we can go with like iPhone 14 plus. Yeah, and when you click on it, it will get automatically added to your workspace in here. So then if you want to, you can change some of the widths and heights in here. You can change the whether it's a portrait or a landscape and things like that. You can change maybe the background color. If you have already set up some of your like other colors in your document, it will automatically appear here in the document color section at the bottom. If not, you can just drag this slide around and change it to whatever color you want. Red is not good. Let's go for like a blue maybe. Yeah. So that is basically how you set up a frame. And it is inside this frame that all your screen designs actually go into. Oops. Give me a minute. Yes. So now that's about frames. And then we are moving on to how can we do some wireframing with Figma itself. So as I mentioned, the first step is to get your frame set up. I will use the same one as before. And now you have, think about, first you have to decide what you are going to be designing for. So in this case, it could be a mobile app, maybe that the AI chatbot is going to be a mobile app. So you can use the iPhone as a starting place, and you are going to design for iPhone 14 Plus first and foremost. So wireframing is a concept where you think about what you are going to design and put everything in a very low fidelity manner. You are not going to think about the high definition visuals. You just want to know where everything in your mobile app is going to be. So in a chatbot, what would you have? You will have a box to type in your question to the chatbot, right? So in usually some that you can find it in like the middle of maybe not the middle, like the lower bottom of the screen. So you need a text box. So what you can do is a text box usually like a rectangle. So go to the rectangle tool and quickly draw a rectangle here. So since it's a wireframe, you don't really need a fill color, but maybe we can add a stroke to it. I'd say like 3. In here, you can see how you can add a stroke is by clicking on this plus icon, and then you can change your color of the outline. Because of because I'm building a wireframe, I don't really need to be concerned about things like colors and anything. All I need is just a white background and put together everything, the content that is appearing on it in black. So I'll just keep black as it is, but just for visibility's sake, I can maybe increase this stroke size to 3. So there we go. This is a text box where you can type in your request. And then maybe to send this request, you might need another button as well, a send button. So I can draw maybe another rectangle here. I will do the same thing that I did before. And then maybe I can keep this as it is, but maybe just because to give a higher clarity as to that this is a button, I can include the information here that it says send. And then you can see the text information also appearing on the right panel. As I mentioned, anything that you do in the workspace itself, if you want to adjust the settings of those components and things that you have included, go to your right panel. And letters are too big, the text is too big, so I can just go in here and change the size of the text and maybe do some adjustments if I want as well, but it's a wireframe, so I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to care about the details. I just want the information to be in place. So there we go. A quick UI wireframe for a chatbot itself. We have a text box where we type things, and we have send in here to send that text to the AI chatbot. So like that, you can use Figma to make sure that you can quickly build your wireframes. But this is a very manual process, but there are some plugins that you can find which you can use to quickly throw together wireframes without you yourself doing any designs as well. And I will later tell you where you can find these plugins and like starter templates and things like that at the end as well. So that's about wireframing. And then we come to something called high fidelity design. So high fidelity design is what we usually call UI mockups. So it's the next step after wireframing. You have your wireframe in place, you have your idea as to how things should look like, where each and every information in the UI should go into. And what you can do is start to think about the little details that goes into design afterwards. What are the colors going to be like? How much of a stroke you are going to have? Whether you are going to go with rounded corners and things like that. So when talking about high fidelity design, we actually have like a few things that are really sort of Figma superpowers that will help us to get our work done. So they are auto layout, components, and variants. So let me first start introducing you to auto layout. In order to do that, let me move this a little bit. Yes. So in order to explain how auto layout looks like, let me do a quick demo of how we can do something very simple like a button using Figma for UI design. So if it's a buttons, we usually start with the text. So we can go to the text tool at the top here, and we can place it in here. And let me reduce the size of the text a little bit and start typing in button. So we have the text of the button in place. And next, what we are going to do is convert this text into a frame. We are going to put a frame around it. So how you can do is you can actually right click in here, and then you can go to the option you can see here in the middle called frame selection. If you are very familiar with keyboard shortcuts, you can go press down Control, Alt, and G on your keyboard, and this text layer will get converted into a frame instead. So I will select frame selection, and on the left panel you can here see that your button text layer has been put in underneath the frame layer itself. So now with your frame layer selected in here, on the right panel, you can see an option called auto layout. So what does auto layout does? I will talk first about how auto layout could be added. Here is the plus sign, just add it to put it as an auto layout. So in here, you can set these bottom two options is for vertical padding and horizontal padding. Maybe I will give around like 16 pixels each from both top and bottom. And now you can see that there is a little bit more space around this button, this text layer itself. And then let's round out the corners a little bit. Let's say maybe like 4. And right now you can't see if there's a layer or anything because it's all on a white background. So let me select that layer again and add a fill color to it as well. I will go with, let's think that this is a primary button. So let's go with the blue background for it. And it's this blue background. And then the visibility or the contrast ratio of this text and background is not too much. So let's change the color of the text into white instead. So now when you click on this component or like this frame itself, what gets selected is the frame. So instead of that, I want to select the text. So how do I do that? One way of doing that is to go into your left panel and specifically select on this text layer itself. But this poses some problems because right now it's not that hard to see. You only have like one nested layer inside. But imagine it's something like, let me see, something like this. There are a lot of nested layers going on, and it's very tedious to just go in and try to find that specific layer you want. So instead, what you can do is, while you are pressing down on your control key in the keyboard, you can go to this layer that you want to select and click on it. And now you will get your text layer selected. So this is something that we like to call deep select, and it comes in very handy all the time. So a good keyboard shortcut to remember would be Control click as well for deep select. Now we have selected this text layer, and what I can do is go in here and change this into white. Yes. And maybe I will increase the corner radius a little bit more. Yeah, looks good. So that is our button. So what is the purpose that we put in used auto layout to make this frame? We have a flexible button now. So imagine if we are trying to change this text itself. Hi, I'm a button. Can you see when I type in, it automatically adjusts the width of the button itself. What if I made another button with a text layer that says button 2, and then instead of using auto layout, I just make a frame by hand on top of this, and when I drew the frame on top of this, you can see the text layer automatically got added to the layer itself. But now I haven't set up any set up auto layout, so I will give this a color as well. Maybe this blue. Yeah, I will do the same things that I did previously. Change this to white. The two buttons doesn't look different, right? They look the same, but this one does not have auto layout in it, and this one does. And as you could see with the auto layout one, as much text as I add, it doesn't matter. The length of the button will automatically get adjusted. But what about this one? Can you see the frame does not move? So that's the power of auto layout. When you're building components, it's always a good idea to have auto layout because it gives you flexibility to make your components resize as the content inside them expands and contracts. So then we let me put these two aside. Yes, so this is the nice and clean button that we have made with auto layout. And then if you want, you can even put more content inside this button. Right now, all I have is going on a text layer, but you can include some icons as well. There are buttons with icons you have seen, so things like that. And you can always adjust that using auto layout. And then I'm going to be talking about components. So what are components? Components are an easy way for us to recreate something that we have already created. So I hope you guys are familiar, maybe coming from a software engineering or IT background. So in that case, you are probably familiar about the concept of reusing code. It's always mentioned, whatever code you are writing, use code in one place and use that as a reference in other place. So that same concept goes in design, especially UI design as well. So how Figma enables us to do that as designers is by using components. It's really easy to make a component. Your button could be a component. You could have a search box, and that search box could be a component. And maybe you have like a toolbar made up. That toolbar could be a component. Anything you want that has a possibility of being reused could be a component. So how you can make a component is click on this button that you have created. And then at the top middle, you can see this sort of diamond shape with 4 squares, sort of like a flower. And if you hover over it, you can see it says create component. So it's easy as that. you just click on that button, and this frame, this button you have created, will automatically become a component. So you can see even in the left panel, the icon of the icon has changed in here. It shows the same component icon that you saw before. So now you can just make duplicates of this. So to make duplicates, what I do is I press down Alt key in my keyboard, and then you can see your cursor. When you are hovering over this component, your cursor will change to like a double arrow, and then you can click and drag it, and you will be creating an instance of this original component that you have made. And you can make multiple components like that. And so what do I mean? This is what I meant by reusing, but it has other added benefits as well. For example, imagine I want to change the color of my button. I see that I'm using the wrong blue here. So I need to do that change. And if I have not made a component of this cell, what I'll have to do is select all the buttons everywhere that I have created, and then go to fill and manually change the blue color of each and every single one of these buttons. But since I have created a component and created instances of this component itself, what I can do is just click on that button, go to fill and change the blue of that button. And it will be reflected in all the instances you have created in that button as well. Same thing goes for like the text color. I can change this to maybe like a just for sake of showing you this, I will change it to yellow. Really ugly, but see, you can change, just change the component and it will be reflected everywhere. Not only colors, you can change the text in here itself, and your instances will reflect that. But word of caution, if you have already manually selected any one of these instances and changed that text or the color or whatever. So I'm going to change the color here, maybe this one as well. So now, even though this button is an instance of this component, it doesn't matter if I change this or not. Those the properties of this button that I have changed will not get changed along with it. But for instance, you can change other properties as well. For example, let me round the corners a little bit more. So you can see, since we did not touch, like manually change the rounded corner radius of this button, it will change anyways. So yes, that is how you make components. Let me move this. And that is the power of components. So it's easy to reuse in other places in your project, as well as it's easy to do changes when you're doing your project. So always for things that you think will get reused later on, make sure that you are using components. So let me change this back to what it looked like again. Yeah, great. So that's components done. Now I'm going to talk about something called variants. So you have seen in any website, usually it's not only like single colored buttons you get. If you see a blue button somewhere, then there's a high chance of seeing a gray colored button somewhere else, like maybe right next to it, because we have a concept of like where we make something called primary buttons and secondary buttons. Primary buttons which convey the important information, and then another variation of the button itself which gives out information that is not so important as with primary buttons, called secondary buttons. So like that, different components could have various variations of that component as well, and those are what we call variants. So how you can create a variant is you can click on this component that we have already created, and then either you can right click and can't you do no? Okay, so you can click on it, and then what you can do is up here you can see in the top there you can't see the component button anymore, but you can see something called add variant. So you just click it, and then another button will get added, and that is a variant of the first button. So even in the left-hand panel, you can see it says default button and the new variant you have created called variant 2. But you can set the different, like the property and the variant name here. So I can say that this is the maybe, yeah, let's consider the use case of making a button which looks different when you are hovering over it. So usually if you are hovering over a button, it will get like a darker color or something like that. So let's call this state. You can give any name you want to this property. And then this state here is hover. So yes. So now you can see that there is a component here with the variant, and the two states of these two buttons is default and hover. And since this is the hover variant of the button we have created, we can do changes to this. So maybe imagine when you are hovering over it, this it loses, maybe the field changes to white, and then we get a stroke, and the stroke color is actually the blue. And let's increase this a little bit. And then we have the text here, which will also turn into blue. Yes. So, right. So now how do we use this in our designs? What we can do is similar to what we did before. We can either select the button that we want and drag it into the workspace, or in here in the left panel you can see at the top something called assets. So if you go into the assets, all your libraries will be loaded in here, and you can see something called local components, and underneath local components you get design and styles. The reason is that we have 3 pages called design, prototype, and styles, and that is the reason that it's appearing as so. And our button is in the design page itself. So what we have to do is go to local and design, and then it is broken down into which frame we are working with, and in this case it's called high fidelity design. So you can see the button is here, and at the top it has this number 2 written here, and it says includes 2 variants. So what you can do is click on this and drag it into your workspace, and your button, an instance of your button will get added to it. And in here, automatically the first instance that will get added is your default version, but you can, if you want to use the hover version of it, you can just go into this state in your right-hand panel and change it to hover instead. So that's sort of the superpowers that you have when you are working with high fidelity designs in Figma, auto layouts, components, and variants. There are so many other things that has been introduced in Figma. For example, you can see here on the right panel something called local variables that has been added like last year. But I will not be talking about it because for the free version, there are so many limitations when it comes to variables. Variables are really great if you have a paid version of Figma, but for free version, it's not really that helpful. But auto layout, components, and variants all comes with its full capabilities, even for the free version. So make sure that you make use of it when you're doing your UI designs. Okay. So let's move on to prototyping. And I actually saw at the start of the session as well, there was a question about prototyping, and somebody had asked how to sort of connect the different screens, so to move through each of them using Figma. So I will be showing that as well. So before that, let me move into this page itself. So I have set up a different page for prototyping because sometimes prototyping gets a little bit bogged down with various interactions and everything. So a tip for you, when you are doing all your designs in the same file, I suggest you to have one page itself for designs, all your design resources, and then a copy of that design file with like the final UIs, which is a place that you can do all your prototyping. And then sort of a best practice is also if you have components and various styles like colors and a color palette and typography section and everything like that set up, then you can maybe have another page for that. So that's a good sort of format or a way to break down your work with just 3 pages. Okay, so for prototyping, I have set up previously 3 different screens. So as you can see, there are no prototype. For me to do prototyping, I have to move to the right panel. And right now, as you can see, we are in the design tab, but you have to go to the prototype tab itself. So now there are no interactions going on. If you have an interaction going on, usually you can see it by like a blue color arrow like this, but there are no blue color arrows right now because I don't have any prototyping or interaction set up here. So before we start connecting the screens, let me walk you through how the right panel has changed now. So first of all, we have something called the device. So for when you have done your prototyping and wants to present that prototype, you have to select which device you are sort of emulating, because the present mode will open up in sort of an emulator. So you have to let Figma know which device that you are going to be using as the emulator. So in this case, since if I remember correctly, I have set this up for some iPhone size. So I think iPhone 11 works best for me. So I will do that. And then just to give like a fancy look, you can maybe change the model as well. So I'll use white. And if you want, you can change like background colors and things like that, but don't need to really go into that much details. Then of course you can set it as like either portrait or landscape mode as well. So as you can see, this home screen is where I'm going to start my first interaction with. And Figma has already added this sort of Flow 1 tab in here, because it has identified it as the starting point. But instead, if it doesn't automatically do that, or you want to set something up as your first starting point, what you can do is select that frame and then go in here on the right panel, and it says flow starting point, and then you can add it. And if you want, you can give it a name as well. But since I already have one flow starting point and it is where I want it to be, I will just delete this. But you can manually set up your flow starting point, and that's how you do it. So right now, what is the basic thing that you need to know to make up a prototype? How do you go from one screen to another? So in order to connect one screen to another, you need to first decide which touch point in your current screen is going to trigger the next screen that you are going for. So in this case, I will zoom this up a little bit. You can see that I have a section called Continue Your Lessons, and then the second screen in here also says Continue Your Lesson. And maybe that this See All button here, like clicking on this See All button, will actually trigger moving into this screen. So what I can do is try to click on this See All screen frame itself. And once it is selected, you can see when I move around, there is sort of a circle with a plus icon appearing inside, and those are the sort of little like, what do I call them? Maybe like hotspots that you can use to drag out the interaction arrows. And then you can see if I click on this and drag it out, an arrow appears. And what you have to do is go and connect this arrow to where the next screen, ideally, as it's the screen that should open up if I click on this button itself. So a little sort of menu box will pop up, and it will say on click, or in this case, it's on click, and then navigate to continue your lesson is the screen name. And then you can put some animation. It could be either instant, or there's a bunch of things you can select. Just for this purpose, I will show you what works with instant. So now I have created one simple interaction. So how do I get to play this prototype? So I can either use this present button in here, or I can go and click on this in here. And the difference is, if I click here, then that emulator will open up inside this file itself. So while I'm designing interactions itself, I can automatically see a preview going on in this emulator itself. Or else, if I go and click on this, then it will open up in a whole other page itself. And if I'm looking at that, then I can't do any interactions then and there itself. It will be only possible to see here. Oh, the screen doesn't look good. Let's see, but it looks better in here. So yeah. So now you can see, if I hover, like the connection I have made is in for this see all button, right? So can you see when I move my arrow, my cursor around, when I hover over the see all button, it changes into the hand icon. So now if I click on it, then it will move to the next page. So I have connected those two screens. But something that I haven't done is, like, after this part, I don't have any other way to like move back into the previous page, because I haven't set it up. So what I can do is, there is this sort of back button itself. So I can click on it and use this plus arrow handle and drag it out to this first screen. So now I have created a connection there. So now when I click on this, it will move back to the first screen. But the change is it happens instantly, and that's not really looking good, right? Usually when you're using a mobile app, you can see some sort of animation going on. So what you can do is to change what you have an interaction that you have already created. You can just click on that specific arrow for that interaction, and then go to this is the animation that they have put instant, but I can change it to maybe smart animate, or like you can check out these different animation types and also adjust the settings as you needed. And I will do the same to the other one and use it as smart animate. So now let's see what happens. There is a small animation going on. It doesn't look as bad as it used to, right? So that's how you can set up your interactions and how you can animate them a little bit as well. And then another thing is, in here you can see that this page is very long, but the usual mobile is not that long. So it cut out somewhere here, like the recommendation courses, and like just after this image finishes, the phone screen cuts out as well. So what happened to the rest of the design itself? So that's where like your scroll behavior comes in. You can see that I can scroll in my emulator, and it as same as to a phone, it will show me this whatever is below this cut as well. And there's a small issue going on here, because you can see this bottom bar is a navigation bar for me, but it scrolls with the design I have right now, but what I want to happen is for it to stick here at the bottom. So what I can do in such a case is click on that whole navigation bar component itself, and you can set the scroll behavior for that you can see on the right panel here. So right now it says position scroll with parent. That means it will scroll with the page, but instead I can set it to fixed, stay in page, and you can immediately see the change that has happened in the emulator itself. It has stuck to the bottom. So now when I scroll inside this, the bottom navigation does not scroll with that. So yeah, I have other screens as well, but I will not be connecting them all because it's the pretty much basic prototyping, like how to connect the screens. There are so many fancy things and fancy ways that you can build up your prototype. I suggest that you check them out, but when you consider the very basic Figma functionalities, this is what you can do. And as a beginner, this is as well. But something that you can test out is what happens when with these different animation styles, and you can like change the curve of these, like change the duration and things like that, and just play around with it and see something, try to build up something that feels natural for everybody to use. Yes, let's move back to the presentation. So we are done with prototyping now, and I showed you how an emulator would look like on your laptop screen itself. But for in case of designing for mobile screens, there is a specialty because Figma has their own mobile app as well. So what you can do is to check this out. You can go to, if you have an iPhone, you can either go to the App Store, or on an Android, you can go to Google Play, and you can download this mobile app. And this mobile app has very limited functionality. So it can't be used for designing or anything like that, but it can be used to view the designs that you have already created. So if that means if you are on the go and you want to quickly show your friend or someone something that you have designed, then you can quickly open up the mobile app and show them the design that you have done. But when talking about prototyping, you can actually use your mobile phone as the device to play your prototype as well. So all you need to do is, like I mentioned, go to your Figma app, open up the project, and then the prototype will open up. And if you have set up the interactions properly, you can just try out and see if the interactions you have done feels natural on a mobile phone rather than just clicking on the screen itself, on the laptop screen itself. And if you are doing any usability testing for a mobile app, then this is a great way to get some actual information about the interaction the users have with a mobile prototype as well. And then another thing is you can use your mobile apps to comment on files and prototypes using then and there as well. You don't need to log into your laptop or desktop or whatever. You can use your mobile app then and there itself to leave comments as well. So the mobile app has very limited functionality when considered the wider Figma tool, but it comes also handy for these two use cases. Okay. So now I have showed you all about exporting screens. Now, all about prototyping and designing. You have your wireframes, you have your design screen, high fidelity screens, you have your prototype. But usually for a designathon like this, you need to maybe put together your screens and show them in a presentation, or maybe as a final deliverable, you have to hand over your different design screens. So how do you do that? So you have to go into the design tab again, and I will use the same screen that I have previously made. Maybe I will use this one. So this is our very first wireframe screen. So what I can do is select this frame. Make sure you are not selecting any of the frames inside. Make sure you are selecting the bigger frame itself that contains the whole screen. And then on the right panel here at the bottom, you can see the option called export. And what you need to do is click on the plus icon and it will open up your options panel for this. So you can use either export screens as PNG, JPEG, SVG or PDF. Usually doing it as PNG or JPEG is enough. And then usually it will be exported as the same size it is that you have defined here. But if you need a larger size, you can go to this here and select something else. And then all you have to do is just click on export and it will, your frame name will appear, and just click on that. And it will open up this screen where it will show everything like where it needs to be saved, and you can select a location and you can save it. And then, so that is how you export screens, very easy. And if you have multiple screens, you can select everything that you want and then click on export for layers. And then go and select where you want to save your files. Yes, so that is exporting screens. So that exporting screens is, of course, one way of sharing your designs that you have created. But then what if you want, and usually it is used if you have finalized your designs and want to deliver the final output. But before that, what if you want to share what you have designed with somebody else and get their feedback and collaborate with them, maybe over a call, and try to do some changes in the designs you have already done. So in that case, this is where sharing comes in. What you can do is you can go to this share button here, click on it, and this dialog box will appear. So in here, you can either type in email addresses and select like you can give them viewing rights. This is very similar to how you share some file or something over maybe like Google Drive. So you can either give them writing the emails of the people that you're sharing this information with, or you can just copy link. Click on this and copy link, and your link will get copied to the clipboard, and just send this out straight away to somebody who needs to see them, and they can collaborate with you and give you comments and maybe give you directions. If you are not using the free version, if you are using the paid version, actually more than one person can collaborate, but they also need to have a paid version of Figma in that case. But for the free version, unfortunately, somebody else will not be able to come into the file and design themselves. They will only be able to view the file. So that means they will only be able to leave a comment in the design itself. And then we have got the Figma community. We are nearing the end of our session for today, and I mentioned that I will let you know a few helpful tips and helpful places where you can find more resources and learn about Figma and FigJam. So one such place is Figma community. And how you access Figma community is you go to this home button here, where it will lead you to your home screen of the Figma app. And in the left panel bottom, you can see something called Explore Community, and click on that. And it's where, yes, so this is the community. In here, you can find a lot of templates, design files, plugins, and widgets that other designers in the community, Figma community, has created. You can maybe even find something like presentations in here about a specific topic related to design, or else you can see app mockups, you can see icon files, or other elements that you can use in the designs itself, or a set of components and things like that. There are a lot of resources in here, and some of them are paid, but there are free resources for you here as well. So I highly recommend using them just to get you started. And sometimes if you are, for example, designing a wireframe, you don't need to build everything from scratch because it's not your final design. You just need to get an idea. So in such a case, Figma community has multiple wireframing templates and even some plugins as well. So you can get the help of them to get you started. You can just select any of these in here and go and explore these various topics. Or if you specifically have something in mind and you know what you are looking for, you can go to the top and search for it. Both Figma templates and FigJam templates are available here. So just check them out and see what you are trying to find is already in here, and let that be a starting point for you to get your work started. And then we have something called Figma Learn, which is, you can find this under the URL of help.figma.com. I have this link open, let me see. So for those who are like okay with reading tutorials and getting information from that, this is the place for you. They have similar to community, you can type in here what information you are looking for, what sort of tutorials or design guides you are looking for, and you will be able to find some hits in here. Or if not, you can go to like popular topics, or maybe specifically like how to get started on things, Figma design, specifically FigJam and things like that. And they even have a tab, helpful navigation here for exploring the community and things like that. You can go in here and get that information. Let me drop this in the chat so you can access it later on as well. Yes, so you can go in here, and if you are more of a if it's easier for you to read up about something and then do it, this is the place for you. But for others who are more of a visual learner, Figma also have a really great YouTube channel that you can use. In here, they almost upload like, they do upload every week, nearly. And there are so many tutorials and small courses and playlists and live events and things like that, that you can get information on. Some really lengthy videos, like you can see here, 54 minutes, 1 hour, like bigger sessions like that. But then they also have like very specific topics done in like 5 minutes, 6 minutes and things like that. So this is a great place for you to get information about how Figma and FigJam works, and also to get information about the new features that are introduced in them. And so it's a great resource for you to go and try out. I will put a link in the chat for this as well. And if not, of course, you can just go to YouTube, and there are a lot of designer YouTubers out there, and they have great content about the various capabilities of Figma, and they have done some very great tutorials, and they are actually like trying to break the boundaries of the Figma capabilities as well. So there are some really cool things out for you to look at and get inspired by and try out and improve your skills, basically. So go and check them out. And yes, that is Figma on YouTube that I was talking about. And that brings me to the end of our session today. So I hope everybody learns something new. And you can find me on LinkedIn /SanduniK95. Feel free to connect with me there because I usually do one-to-one mentoring. If you are a beginner who's interested about getting started in UX design and wants some help and doesn't know how to get there and know what resources to look into, just connect with me and reach out to me and ask me questions. Or even if you are somebody who has already been there for who's already familiar with UX design for some time but have some questions, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to help out. Even with questions related to Figma and FigJam, I can help you out with. And if not, I can direct you to a place where you can find information. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I usually reply to every single question I get. So don't feel shy, just reach out to me. Yes, so thank you. That's it from me. And I think let's see if we have any questions. There seems to be a couple. Let me see. So open up this. Look, yes. Is there any method to add Figma wireframe as a GitHub contribution? This is something I'm not very familiar with, but as far as I know right now, there isn't a direct way to do it. But what you can do is like put a link in, like open up a file there and put your Figma links in there. It's one way I'd suggest to do it, but it's not really a concept that I'm familiar with because UX designers don't really use GitHub. It is more for the developers. So what we do is maintain a portfolio of ourselves. The person who had this question, I suggest you like Google a little bit and try to see if other designers or other people have done something similar, and hopefully you will be able to find your answer. I'm sorry, I'm not much help for you in this case, but one way I can think of doing it is to open up a file and include a link to the design that you have worked on. How to connect the different interfaces we design through Figma to show how different pages of a website interact with each other. So yes, this is the question that I saw previously as well, and I hope I showed you how to do it. Yes, I know I showed you how to do it on mobile screen, but similar thing with website. It's just the length, like the proportion of the screen has changed, but it's the same way that you connect the interactions there itself. Can you give some useful plugins in designing? The thing is, I don't actually use many plugins because in my case, in the office environment, usually because of privacy concerns, we aren't really encouraged to use plugins. But in my personal life, I've used wireframing plugins. One such thing is something that I already have here. Let me see. This thing called wireframe. So it's the only one I have used so far. Just to get a quick understanding of layouts for screens that I'm designing. They have multiple wireframing options in here, so you can select whatever wireframing option that seems better for your use case and try to incorporate them in your designs. But other than that, I'd recommend you to go and explore the community because each and every person's experience will be different. What they are looking for will be different. So in that case, it's better for you to go and explore the community and see what you want for your work. So yes. how important is auto layouting and components in designing with limited time? Will it slow me down or will it speed up the process? That is an excellent question. And I personally think that actually it will speed up your process a lot and make you very, very efficient. But the thing is, auto layouting and components is actually a skill that you need to have sort of beforehand. And what I mean by this is, imagine you have your designathon tomorrow, and usually a design thing is only 24 hours, right? So you can go in there and try to do auto layout, learn auto layouting and components right then and there itself, because you need some practice with it. It's not hard to catch up. I'll just show you how to do something with auto layout and components in under 5 minutes. So it's a very easy skill to gain, but I'd recommend you to actually practice doing something that of that sort a little bit beforehand, and then you will know immediately what to do once you get to the designathon. So then it will really speed up your process, because you only have to make one component with auto layout one time and then reuse it. And then at the end of the designathon, even if your teammate comes and says, I don't like the blue, we should change it to purple instead, then it will be only a matter of changing it in one place and it will reflect it. Like, it's something that you can do in the final 5 minutes as well. So I highly recommend using it. It will speed up your process, but make sure that you are familiar with it before the competition itself. Can we know about tips to increase speed of designing and keep the designs organized? Okay, I will talk about increasing speed, but I think I already sort of answered that questions. Always make sure to use auto layout and components as much as possible for everything. So buttons are a good thing, navigation bars, and then maybe like headings, for example, like maybe like a table component and things like that. Like anything that you think could be turned into a component, anything that you think will be reused in the future, make sure that you keep it, make it a component so that you can increase your speed in designing. And to keep the designs organized when you're building components, always make sure that you name them properly. I know it takes a little time, rather than just, it's in frame 1, you will have to go in and change it to say button. It takes a little bit of time, but it really helps you to find out that layer or component you are looking for later on. So to keep the designs organized, that's another tip. Try to rename the components or the frames that you will be reusing. And then, as I mentioned, I will show it once again. I told you it's good to have sort of these 3 pages in itself. If you have a paid account, you can go for more pages, but I'm only focusing on 3 pages right here, because I'm assuming a lot of you might be using the free account. So go for design, prototype, and styles. You can keep all your color information, all your typography information, icon information, anything else in the styles page. And you can keep all your UI design or even wireframes, high fidelity mockups, everything in the design page. And then you can keep the prototype page relatively clean with only your final UIs and the prototype itself. Are there any tools available for gaining insights into the application of color theory and other design principles? Are there communities where we can share our designs and get feedback? Yes, 2 questions. I will answer the first one first. Color theory and other design principles. Yes, there are a lot of color tools that you can use. One is, let me see, I will need to find that. This. So Material Design have come up with a color tool of their own. So in here you can find information about colors and like how this color system works and things like that. And they used to have a color wheel sort of thing, but I'm not sure if with the new redesign they have gotten rid of that one. It seems so. But to find information, this is a great place for you to start because you have seen Google products, they use material design. So this is one thing you can use to get your information. And then to quickly generate something like a color palette that you can use coolers.co/generate. And nope. Continue. Yes. So in here they have sort of auto-generated a color palette for you, and when you hit the space bar, they will change this color palette, and you can pick if you feel like you like anything. You can pick, or you can like customize each and every one according to your liking. And then they have like other tools in here, palette generator, and you can explore other palettes. You can put an image and pick a color palette from there and things like that. I got disconnected again.
You're back. We can hear you again.
Okay, great. Sorry, I have a very spotty internet connection today for some reason. Okay, so that's about colors. And then there was the second part of the question. Wait, let me share screen again. Yes. Are there communities where we can share our design and get feedback? So actually, Figma community is something that where you can do this. But the thing is, Figma community is more or less used by designers to find templates rather than to give feedback. So I'm not sure how much feedback you can get from those from the Figma community itself. Because from what I have seen, it's usually the people who comment there will comment only to say what is not working, and they will not. You will not actually get good information about whether your designs are good or not. But actually, this is a great way to leverage LinkedIn as well. I hope you guys have LinkedIn accounts. And if you don't, I highly recommend you to join LinkedIn and build your professional profile there. And what you can do is, if you have come up with some sort of design, you can go to your LinkedIn profile and put in the link of the design that you have created, so others in your network can take a look and maybe give some feedback on it. And specifically, let them know that you came up with design and now looking for feedback. And people will be helpful on LinkedIn. And also, it has the added benefit of getting you more visibility across the LinkedIn community of designers as well. So this is a good thing because recruiters look a lot at LinkedIn. So if they are familiar with the work you have done and seen your activity on LinkedIn previously, once you are applying for jobs, something that they definitely do is reach out to you. So there is a two-way benefit of using LinkedIn to get feedback. You will get the feedback, and at the same time, your recruiters will know that you are out there. So I highly recommend that. But if you are familiar with something called Discord, I think maybe if you are a gamer, you are probably familiar with Discord, and the others might not be. But there are some good Discord communities as well. One such one that I use a lot is called Design Buddies. Design Buddies, I think they have a website as well. Let me check. Design Buddies. Yes, they have a website as well. So yes, Design Buddies has a Discord community. So what you can do is sign up to Discord and sign up to their community, and you can ask, post your designs that you have done and ask them for feedback. Design Buddies is not only for UI UX designers, it's for everybody. It's for normal other designers as well. So don't hesitate, because I'm pretty sure you guys who are interested in UX design are probably not only interested in that, you do other designing on the side as well. So whatever designs you have come up with, reach out to them, join their Discord and reach out to them and post your designs and get feedback from them. I will put this link in the chat as well, so you know where to go to. Yes. So I hope, Dino, do we have a time to stop the session? Because I can see the questions pouring in and I'd like to reply to them as much as possible.
Well, yeah, we can stop after like one more question.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So what are your thoughts on utilizing AI-generated art and design to OC? What is your policy regarding the use? Yes, the second question, I think somebody from the organizing committee can take up. So my personal thoughts on utilizing AI-generated art and designs is, it is actually helpful, especially if you have a limited time to get your work done. But still, I don't think you can fully utilize AI-generated designs as well, because AI-generated designs are not at that maturity level. There are so many issues that's going on with them. So still, it needs a human touch. So for the time being, I'd recommend, because the industry has not shifted to using AI-generated designs, they are still looking for people who can actually do that work. So in that case, you have to be thorough with the skill set that you have. So make sure that you do your own designs, and if maybe for some little things like getting a quick icon done or getting a quick placeholder image done, maybe you can move to AI generated art. But otherwise, for design itself, maybe it's best that you do your own design, because there are so many issues with AI generated designs, and I'm pretty sure that somebody who's looking at your design can say that whether this is AI generated or not. So in that case, they might be more attracted to a design that is done by, that has a human touch rather than an AI generated one. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. And I think we can conclude this Q&A part with the question to the OCs about their policy about this.
Yeah, as to that question, so for the competition, AI-generated images are welcome, but like AI-generated designs and wireframes and mockups are allowed, but they're highly discouraged as well. As Ms. Sanduni explained, it's better if you can not use too much AI. So
yes, Dino, got one more thing. So I know we are going to not be able to answer like 3 or 4 more questions, and I saw a question direct message to me on chat as well. So I'm sorry that we are running out of time, guys, so I won't be able to answer those. But if you really want to get your answer, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. As I mentioned, you can either search for me, Sanduni Kariyawasam, or Sanduni K95, and you can just send me a request and tell me that you met me over this workshop, and send the question to me over there, and I will definitely answer you. Thank you.
all right, thank you, Ms. Sanduni. All right, so a heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Sanduni for enlightening us with such comprehensive insights. So thank you very much for being here with us today and for providing a good understanding about Figma to our participants. So yes, give us a moment. All right. So Ms. Sanduni, please accept this digital token of appreciation, and thank you once again for being here with us today. All right. So moving forward, let's commemorate this gathering with a group photograph. So please use the virtual background shared with you on the chat box and switch on your cameras. So let's take a couple of minutes to get ready. All right, guys. So we'll be taking the photo in three on the count of three. So say cheese. 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling. Just a bit more. All right. Okay. So last but not least, we would like to remind you that the registrations for the second work will be opening soon. So make sure to secure your place for the session to satisfy your curiosity in the UI UX field. And as we draw this session to a close, I extend my deepest appreciation to Ms. Sanduni again for her invaluable discourse and to all of you for your participation. Thank you all for being a part of this enlightening session. And wishing you all a fantastic evening ahead and all the very best for the designathon. Goodbye and take care.